Hey everybody, you're all very welcome along to our Brain Awareness Week workshop, which is organised by the FENS Communication Committee. So we're delighted to have everyone here. It's great to see a nice turnout of attendees, and we have a great panel for you today, where we'll talk to you about some background on Brain Awareness Week, what it's about, what the purpose is, and then to give you some advice and some tips on how to go about organising a Brain Awareness Week event. So I'm Richard. I'm going to share my slides with you now to give you an overview of how the session is going to work. We are being recorded. Now we're waiting for more people to arrive. So if people like, and if you're happy to, you can pop into the chat at the bottom. And if you want to just let us know your name and the country that you're from, it'll be a nice idea for us to get to know who's here, who's taking part, who's participating. So feel free to just put your name and your country in the chat while I get my slides up and organized. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is how to organize and how to run a Brain Awareness Week event for Brain Awareness Week 2022. So this is a workshop organized by the FENS Communication Committee, which I'm a member of. And before we start, we'll just go through some typical Zoom housekeeping issues. I'm sure you're very familiar with these because we've all been using Zoom a lot for the last 18 months or more. But what I'd just like to do is let you know that we will have an interactive element to this workshop towards the end. So if you have questions, hang on to them until the end, when we'll have breakout rooms where you'll have an opportunity to interact with us, with the panelists, and talk to us and ask questions about different aspects of how to organize the event and also how to apply to organize your event as part of FENS. So when you're doing that in those breakout rooms, and we'll come back to those later, just let us know your name and the country that you're coming from as well, because we're really interested to get more events organized for Brain Awareness Week in countries that maybe haven't done them so far and haven't really organized many events in the past. And we look at the breakdown of countries very soon. So this is a quick overview of how the webinar is going to work. So I'm going to do an introduction. I'm Richard. I'm from Maynooth in Ireland, and I'm a member of the Communication Committee for FENS, and I've organized a couple of Brain Awareness Week events in the past. So I'll chair the session and I'll introduce our excellent panel. So we've got a wonderful panel of people today. I'll talk a little bit about what Brain Awareness Week is. And then my next speaker will be Francesca. She's going to talk about why you should participate in Brain Awareness Week. Now, Francesca is the treasurer-elect of FENS and also a member of the FENS Brain Awareness Week Selection Committee. Following Francesca's talk, we'll have two case studies of previous Brain Awareness Week events to give you a sense and a flavor of what type of events people can organize, what's possible, what these events look like, and what it's like to take part in them. So they'll be from Karolina Kosno-Bazinska and Andrzej Czerninski, who will both talk about their events in recent years. Following that, we'll then break into separate breakout rooms where myself and Francesca will be able to field questions about the event itself that you're planning to organize, and if you have questions about how to go about that. And then in the other breakout room, Karolina and Andrzej will be there along with Andrea, who will deal with questions about the process of applying for these events. So as I mentioned, I'm based in Maynooth, just outside of Dublin in Ireland, and I've had a lot of experience of working in public outreach and engagement in terms of science and neuroscience, and I've organized several Brain Awareness Week events over the last few years. And I'm going to do a very quick introduction to what Brain Awareness Week is. Now, we also want you to be very involved interactively with this workshop. So if people want to use Slido, some of you have used it before. If you go to Slido, you can use this code to answer some of the questions that we'll pose to you throughout the afternoon. So you can use this code here, 755343, or if you have your phone or a mobile device handy, you can just take a photo of the QR code, and that will also bring you to the website where you'll be able to respond to the questions that we might ask. So before we start, maybe we'll just use that Slido tool just to make sure it works okay, and to get a very quick indication of where people are joining us from today. So if we swap over, we can see that Victoria is showing us the responses of people. So as you type in your country, we should be able to see them appear in the window there. So this is nice to see. We've got a lovely international representation here. Good to see Belgium front and center. We've got some from the US, which is lovely. Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, from Bosnia, Canada. Apologies about the time zone. I hope it's not too early if you're over in Canada or America. And I think the size represents the number of people, I'm guessing. So we've got quite a good representation from Belgium and from the US. Croatia and Poland, Hungary, excellent. I don't see any from Ireland yet. I'm wondering where my Irish colleagues are, but hopefully they'll arrive soon. So this is really useful. It's a handy tool just to let us interact with you, get a sense of where you're based and who's joining us today. So while you continue to do that, I'm going to pop back into my slides and I'll continue with the presentation. So I'm going to switch over back into my slideshow and I'll talk a little bit about what Brain Awareness Week is. So Brain Awareness Week is a global campaign and the purpose is to foster public awareness and enthusiasm and support for brain science and brain research and to create an appreciation of what it is that neuroscientists do. We work with partner organizations in the various different countries within Europe to create an idea of showing people the impact that brain science and brain research has on people's everyday lives, not just people with brain difficulties or brain conditions, but everyday situations in our everyday lives. So it was founded by the Dana Alliance for Brain Initiatives originally, and European Dana Alliance for the Brain is the European branch of DABI, and this is all coordinated by the Dana Foundation. So this is the overarching organization that organizes all of this. And you can see on the map to the left there that these are the countries that have received funding from the Dana FENS Brain Awareness Week grant scheme since 2005. So you can see that there's a good representation of countries there, but there are still a few gaps and there are a few missing. So since 2005, these grants have facilitated more than 30 projects in more than 20 countries all across Europe. A date for your diary is for next year's Brain Awareness Week, which is going to be from March the 14th to March the 20th. So if you're planning your events, that's really the week that you want to have your Brain Awareness Week event organized. Now, my slides are frozen. So go to the next one. This is a breakdown of applications for those Brain Awareness Week activities from all across Europe. So you can see that countries like France and Spain, the UK, Italy, Poland, and Turkey have really good numbers of representations in terms of applications. This is between 2016 and 2020. If you look to the right of the graph, though, lots of countries here haven't made too many applications, and we'd love to change that. We'd love to see more applications from countries further towards the right of the graph. And if we look at the successful ones, again, we see a lot of success for countries like France, Spain, Hungary, the UK, Poland, Croatia, Italy. But again, if you're on the further right part of this graph, we'd love to see more applications from you so that we can have more success from your grant applications. So if you're thinking about maybe organizing an event, and especially if you're from one of these countries, then we'd absolutely encourage you to go ahead and to do that. So before I introduce Francesca, the next speaker, let's pop back into Slido and we'll have a few more questions for you just to get your feedback and get a little bit of interaction in terms of your point of view, your previous interactions with Brain Awareness Week. So first of all, can everyone just reply to let us know if you've actually attended an event for Brain Awareness Week in the past? Okay, so it looks like, slightly more haven't than have, but that's okay, because hopefully after this workshop, we can plan to change that. So it's looking like about 60-40 at the moment. And I think that'll be useful for people who haven't attended these events before. The presentations today will give you a good sense of what they're like and what they're all about. So it's varying a little bit, but it does look like the majority or slightly more haven't attended these events versus those who have. Okay, that's interesting. That's good to know. Let's ask another question. So the next one will be, have you ever organized one in the past? I can't respond, but I would say yes, if that was the case. And again, it looks like considerably more haven't than have. So that's a really good reason to change that and to encourage people to think about organizing an event. And as I'll mention later, there will be some funding available to help you organize these events for 2022. So again, it looks like much more people haven't than have organized one of these events in the past. Okay, let's ask another question. So the next one will be, based on what you've just heard and what you've already encountered, how would you describe Brain Awareness Week if you had one word to use? So if you want to type in what word you would use to describe Brain Awareness Week. Funny, okay, yeah. Important. Funny is interesting because one way to attract the public can be through humor or comedy or something that's accessible, exciting, an adventure. Yeah, you want to make these events accessible to people, entertaining for people, to generate their enthusiasm that creates learning, make them accessible. These are really great suggestions because when you try to design your event, you don't want to make it seem very stuffy and very formal. You want to make it something that maybe kids can enjoy or everybody can take part in. So engaging, helpful, an adventure, important, enthusiasm. These are great terms to keep in mind when you start to organize your event. Okay, let's do one more Slido before we move on to the next presentation. So again, we're only very early into this workshop, but at the moment, do you think you'll organize an event? Wonderful, 100%. Excellent. We can close the poll there. Okay, fair enough. There's some no's, but maybe that will change by the end of today's workshop. At the moment, though, it's encouraging to see that the majority of people are thinking about organizing an event. And hopefully, after today, you'll be even more definite that you want to take part. Okay, so let me go back to my slides again. Thanks, Victoria, for running those Slidos. And let me resume the PowerPoint. So for the next part, we're going to hear why you should participate in Brain Awareness Week from our next speaker, who's Francesca. So Francesca is a senior researcher and group leader at the Center for Behavioral Sciences and Mental Health in Instituto Superiore di Sanità. Apologies for my pronunciation. She's a behavioral neuroscientist, particularly interested in the neurobiology of stress. And her main project is the impact of early life metabolic and psychosocial stress on susceptibility to mental disorders, from converging epigenetic signatures to novel targets for therapeutic intervention. She's also the treasurer-elect of FENS and a member of the selection committee for FENS Brain Awareness Week activities. So I'm going to pass over to Francesca, who will do a presentation for you about why you should participate in Brain Awareness Week.
Thank you very much, Richard. Thank you for this very nice introduction. And so what I would like to do today is to really try and give you some tips from my point of view, so that from the point of view of someone who's been in the selection committee. And well, I think it's been a very, very helpful for me to actually look at the projects, and I felt a little bit of a frustration when I looked at some of them, because I thought that there were, in some of them, there were some very nice ideas, but I got the feeling that you know, whoever presented them wasn't really aware of what we were looking for. So I think this is going to be useful today, so that you get a better grasp of what is really expected from a proposal for this Awareness Week. Richard has already introduced what it is, and I'm sure you are probably aware of the selection procedure. So basically you have a call for applications. You will have to write a proposal. It's not a very difficult actually one, and then your proposal will be judged by a committee that last year was composed, as you can see, by these people. I was among them. We received 66 applications in 2021 from 26 different countries, and we ultimately selected 33 projects that came from 20 different countries. And this is actually the distribution. Oops, I think I went to one. Okay, yes, so this is the distribution, and this is actually the geographical distribution. So it resembles a little bit the graph that you have seen before by Richard over the years. And you can see that it really goes from far west to far east. And last year we had one project, for example, that was funded coming from Russia. Okay, but what are we looking for? The format, first of all. Of course, the COVID has changed a lot, right? The way we think about this Brain Awareness Week. And I think it has changed it also in a good way, because being able to have, for example, hybrid formats, so events that are organized on site, but that also have an online component, they can allow us not only to overcome the problems related to the COVID, but also to reach out to many people, many more than before. So you don't have to think about a typical Congress or conference format, but you can think of a mixed format. You can think about movies linked to conferences, debates. Of course, you want to use the social media. You may want to propose videos, animations, cartoons, depending, for example, whether you're targeting children or adults or even old people. Then you may want to use your, your fantasy to try and engage these people as much as possible. Hands-on activities could be really very, very good, very nice. And also you can think of competition, challenges, for example. I think I wrote down some of the objectives that you used for what you thought about the Brain Awareness Week was adventures, funny, important, and engaging. I think this is really, this really describes very well how you want to do this. You want to have it really engaging, but also fun and interactive as much as possible. The targets, everyone. I mean, this is really, we want to communicate science to the citizen. So we really want to target from kindergarten children to elderly persons. But of course, your format will have to be appropriate for the appropriate target group you will be focusing on. Where are you going to organize your Awareness Week? Again, you can be very creative here. Last year, we had one proposal that, for example, used the train station to do the communication activity. I thought that was really interesting, really fun, because the train station, first of all, is it's a very nice place. It can be a very nice place. A lot of people, passing by, you can really reach out to a lot of people, and also very different people. So the target, the target audience can be very, very large. You can do it in a hospital. You can think about doing it in schools or have an open laboratory or even a diffuse location. And as I told you before, having this, considering a mixed hybrid online and on-site, it's probably going to be very good, because it will allow you to organize something that, even if there was, and we really hope there will not be, a lockdown, you can still, have your Awareness Week online. So this is really something, a contingency plan has to be there. So remember. Again, remember to address the broader audience as possible. And in some of the proposals we got last year, the proponents, they actually engaged the local Society for Neuroscience so as to have to expand their target audience. you can use, as I told you before, a mix of lectures and promotional videos, for example, so that you can really reach out as much as possible. We are looking for proposals where the proponent has previous experience, but not necessarily. I mean, clearly it will be considered as a plus, but even if you've never done it before, this should not discourage you from, from proposing something. And I guess the proposals that were mostly funded were those that targeted young children and teenagers. And I think, I don't want to say that this is the only target we want to have, but remember that when we want to raise awareness, we have to do it really early, because, as early as we do it, the more likely it is that we will actually create a real, change in the person that we are targeting. So children and especially teenagers, they really are important targets to, for our brain awareness. What you should not do, and this, again, from my experience of reading a lot of proposals last year, there were some proposals that were really out of focus. Remember, you have to raise, I mean, the main target is to raise brain awareness. Okay, so this is really very, very important. You have to have a backup plan. If you are organizing a conference in a location where a lot of people have to be sitting next to each other, you know, in March, we don't know where we'll be. So you have to have a backup plan if, you will not be able to put people together in a closed place. Remember that lectures are not a good format. You can have also lectures, but it cannot be the only thing you will have in your proposal. Give as much detail as possible on how for example, the live events will be organized. As I told you before, show that you are aware that distancing can be an issue, and the number of people that you expect to target. That is very important. If you are thinking of targeting, for example, 20 people, that's not enough. It's very unlikely that your proposal will be funded, or otherwise there has to be something really extraordinary about what you are proposing. And you have to show that there will be an added value to having only 20 people, okay? So these are, my tips. And I guess if you have questions, we will have time later on in the breakout rooms for more, to actually clear out your doubts. And I will stop here. Thank you.
Thanks, Francesca. That was great. I'm going to pop back into my slides again to introduce our next speaker. So that's really good background, I think, and context for why people should engage with Brain Awareness Week. So I'm going to pop back into my slides just briefly to introduce our next speaker. So next speaker is Karolina Kosno-Pazinska, who's a licensed architect, head teacher and co-owner of the Association of Private Schools in Poland. She's also very interested in rolling out these broad programs, which she has done across multiple countries. And she's going to talk to us about a specific project, which is Scientific Conference for Children, Do You Know Your Brain? So I'm going to come out of my slides and hand over to Karolina for her presentation next.
Thank you for this introduction. And I'm really excited to be here with you today. And now I will try to share my screen to show the presentation that we prepared. As you said, Richard, I represent the Association of Private Schools in Opoczno in Poland. And I would like to briefly present you a case study of our first scientific conference for children under the title Do You Know Your Brain, that we organized during the Brain Awareness Week in March 2021. So We had 4 target groups corresponding with all the age groups that we have at our kindergarten, our primary school, and the high school we have. All the young participants had an extraordinary possibility, in my opinion, to take part in an event organized in the form of the actual scientific conference. All the activities were divided into 3 main sessions. There was a poster session, which you may see on the left side. In the middle, you may see a photo from the lecture session, and there we had also a 3D model gallery tour. The total amount of the students, all the kids and teenagers who took part in the conference exceeded 350 people. They were, let's say, the direct participants, but there was about 2 times more indirect participants, mainly their family members. And also we have to still remember about more than 40 teachers and other school employees who were involved in this project. Well, some people say that one picture says more than 1,000 words. So let's take a look at some photos from our event. So on the first, the opening day, we had 2 online lectures held by 2 scientists from UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, in USA. These lectures were dedicated to the oldest groups of students who were during their period of online learning. At the same time, our biology teacher had several introduction lessons concerning the topic at school with younger children. We had 2 competitions. Well, actually, the competition organized in 2 categories. On the left side, you can see the first one. It was to create a presentation concerning the neuroscience and to present it in front of younger children. It was for students, of course. And the second one, which you can see part of that is visible on the right side, was to create a 3D brain model or a neuron model of any kind of material. It was very creative for children. Every lecture was focused on a different topic concerning, of course, the neuroscience. Here you may see the secret life of a neuron presented by a high school student. Of course, the works prepared by students were valued by a professional jury. There was a biology teacher, other scientific subject teachers, and 2 neurologists. Well, I think that always behind such big initiatives, there has to be a numerous number of a big number of amazing people involved in this project, because it took a lot of work. Here you may see the preschool students, 6 years old. And on the right side, there is a winning brain model made of jelly beans, during the contest. And on the next slide, you may see the winning lecture. Kasia, who prepared a lecture about emotions of your brain and presented it in front of the youngest audience. This is our youngest group from the kindergarten. They are from 3 years old up to 5. So there was a lot of fun during this lecture. During all the Brain Awareness Week, the youngest groups from the primary school were preparing with their teacher help 6 posters concerning different aspects of human brain. So then some of them presented them in front of their peers, and there was a variety of topics. Everybody had something different. Here you may see memory, a topic concerning the memory, and some mnemotechniques. And during the last so-called, we called it the show day, we announced the winners of both competitions. And also we organized a final memory workshop using some mnemotechniques for younger students. You can see the first grade students here. Today, after it's about 9 months after this event, I deeply believe that we managed to achieve our main goal of the conference, because I think that we expanded the knowledge of a human brain and how it works between our students, all of the groups. And I also asked our participants, young participants, to just give their opinions about the conference, and they wrote really interesting opinions. One of them is here. If you let me, I will tell you, I will read it down. It was a great experience to present the work in front of younger colleagues. The project raised my self-esteem and taught me how to cope in stressful situations. I would like to encourage everyone to participate in such initiatives. So it's really great to hear something like that. This is Adriana. She is visible on this left picture on the right side. This is Adriana from the 8th grade. And I think that's all from me. Thank you for your attention.
That was great. Thanks you, Carolina. A really, really nice project. And it's wonderful to see engaging kids, especially young kids, in their appreciation for the brain and really helping to get them interested and engaged with the importance of work in the brain. So thank you for your presentation. I'm going to swap over again to my slides for the next introduction. So our next speaker is Andrei. I'm going to introduce Andrei. He's based in Kiev in Ukraine. He works at the Bogomolets Institute of Physiology, where he specializes in EEG in a variety of species, including humans, various different species of animals, even the octopus. And he has a major role in promoting science. He's the Ukrainian Society for Neuroscience officer, and he was involved in brain awareness activities for many years, including starting the first Ukrainian BrainB competition in 2012, which is now a staple ingredient of the Brain Awareness Week events in Ukraine. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides and let Andrei share his. So thanks, Andrei.
Thank you. Well, I will share my screen. This is a cover of our event of this year. We can see main participants. Main of them is the institute I work in, Bogomolets Institute of Physiology, which is main institution related to neuroscience in Ukraine, and also Ukrainian Society for Neuroscience. As a participant of Ukrainian Society for Neuroscience, I was involved to organization of Brain Awareness Week in Ukraine for more than 10 years. According to my recording, the first one was organized in 2010. And first format was, as Francesca noticed, the most standard. That was a set of lectures, public lectures for general audience, but it was new for that time in Ukraine and was very exciting for listeners. And then another part was dedicated to school children. And we organized kind of workshops and lectures for them, and even practical demonstration with some physiological methods and so on. But then we widened our activity, and one of successful case was when we involved medical students of Kyiv universities, and we created a set of different events with a demonstration of some methods and discussion with more professional people than for general audience. Here you can see the EEG workshop with some volunteer from listeners, and we demonstrated this activity in real time. Well, so for many years, main part of our Brain Awareness Week was lectures. This format is standard, but anyway, it's important if you want to deliver some important things about our brain. And the success of lecture parts depends on how much interesting are the lectures and this. And also sleep disturbances related to pandemic situation. Next one was about the cognitive reserve, how to keep brain healthy in aging, and what to do now to keep brain actively working in many years. Next lecture was about brain and microbiome, how our internal bacteria shape the brain functions, and it was delivered by the medical expert, our young colleague. Well, the next lecture about motivation, how brain works with hunger, sex, aggression, and so on, was delivered by a PhD student from Germany. He actually came there from Ukraine, and this is about what advantages can we have from the online or mixed format. So before we could only use, could only hear speakers from Kiev, and now we can hear our friends from different countries. Well, next topic was about cannabinoids. I don't know how situation is in every other country, but in Ukraine they are highly regulated, and it's impossible to use them. Mainly impossible to use them as medical substances, and also we even highly restrict in a possibility to study them in neurophysiology. My lecture was about the brain mechanisms of consciousness, and final one was about brain and happiness. So we started from brain and clock, and finalized our program with the happiness. Andrea, please, next one. And next one. Well, one of formats we used in our previous Brain Awareness Week activity was so-called NeuroMovie Club. The idea was to watch some neuroscience related movies and then discuss what was described good or bad according to real science. So it's like a lecture, watching movie, and then coffee or tea with cookies and with general discussion. That was highly successful. That was interesting, involving, and was very good. But last year we experienced some problem related to online format, since we cannot cannot show the video through the internet because of license limitation. So we started this part of the event with a lecture. Then everyone could watch the movie on their own, and then we gather again and discuss something. And Andrea, please, next one. And another main part of Brain Awareness Week from this year was focused on education. One of competitions for school children, as Francesca mentioned, children is a very important audience for brain-related activity, and young age is very important to involve them. For example, to study brain in a future when they came to universities or further. And one of those competitions is BrainB, which is organized in many countries. And Ukrainian BrainB was one of our grant proposal part. So we organized like a celebration of Ukrainian BrainB, and also I have organized last year for the first time in Ukraine free online course in neuroscience for school children, and then they could study some materials, and best of students and best of BrainB participants were awarded with some prizes thanks to financial support from FENS. And you can see here some good scientific popular books from Ukrainian publishers. And in the center of the slide is a very special prize. These are bags with a printed brain, and these bags are produced by special company which employ special children, let's say, that with autism or cerebral palsy or Down syndrome and so on. So this organization aimed to employ them, to give them kind of money, and also to socialize them. And we supported buying these bags as souvenirs, and it was very special prize for our winners to make them keeping in mind the importance of neuroscience for correcting brain disorders. Well, and actually this part, the first online course for neuroscience and also prizes for BrainB had the unexpected for me outcome. This year on International BrainB competition, which was held online as a part of SFN Congress in USA, the winner again among 2021 cohort was from Ukraine. Victoria Vijek, our national champion, became the best brain in the world. Well, and Andrea, please, next slide. There are some tips. I will not pay time. What platform to choose for the event? Zoom is like a standard, but you need to pay for the license if you don't want to be limited in time, and also if you have many participants. This year we had more than 700
registered participants for lectures, and it was necessary for us to expand our license since basic version is limited by 100 only. And also license Zoom enable you to organize live translation, for example, using YouTube. I like, me personally, like Google Meet, which is not limited in time, but also limited by 100 of participants. And now I didn't work with it, but Facebook started Facebook Live. And this may be, according to description I read, it may be useful. And probably the last slide. Thank you. So some useful tips for organizing the online event. So you maybe wanted to do some advertising using social media or printing some materials on paper. And all of this requires some funds. So this is why you may want to apply for financial support. Then before any online event, it's a good idea to do some registration. This will allow you to know more about your future audience, and also asking them about their expectations and giving to your lectures some preliminary questions. It may be helpful to make the event more involving. Another good idea is creating for your audience some group chat. For example, we, like I described for movie club, and for our lectures, lecture cycles, we created the group chat in Telegram platform, and it allowed us to answer the questions for people to communicate and in some way to compensate the lack of in-person communication, which is a disadvantage of any online event compared to in-person communication. Well, so I'm sorry for technical problems, and this probably the end of my talk. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrei. I'm glad we got to the end of your talk and got to hear from you eventually. And I think it's probably a good reminder that it's always good to have a plan B or a backup plan, especially if there's technology involved, because always things are probably likely to go wrong. So it's good to have a backup ready just in case for your Brain Awareness Week event. So thanks everyone for all your presentations. Now we're a little over time, but I'm just going to very quickly just share a couple more slides with everybody before we go. So I want to thank everyone for their presentations. But before we finish, just to remind everyone of the dates for Brain Awareness Week next year. So it's from March 14th to the 20th in 2022. And I'm happy to report that there will be some funding available for your events for Brain Awareness Week next year. So keep an eye on the FENS website and on the FENS social media accounts for updates about that, about how you can apply. There will be an application process for funded events to give you some financial support for organizing your events. So thanks for your questions, and we hope the answers were good from the breakout rooms. I don't know how the other room went, but our room was really interesting with the questions that came up. And before we finish, I just want to thank everybody. So all our speakers, Andrei, Francesca, Carolina, and Andrea and Victoria for organizing the event. And thanks to you for attending. We hope it was interesting and informative. We hope that you'll apply and to have some events in your own country for Brain Awareness Week next year. And do keep an eye on us on social media. And when you organize your event, when you have your event, do post about it. Use the hashtag Brain Awareness Week 2022. And we look forward to hearing about all your activities and getting your feedback on your Brain Awareness Week events. So thanks, everyone. I'm delighted with all the contributions from today, and we look forward to hearing about your Brain Awareness Week events for next year. Thanks, everyone. Bye.